This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and I'm with Captain Rich Bauer, formerly of the Phoenix Fire Department here in Phoenix, Arizona. And he believes that he was one of the witnesses to the Phoenix Lights in 1997 here. Can you describe to us what you saw that day?
Yeah, we were all outside. Someone actually came and got me because I was still inside. And there were maybe a half a dozen, to my recollection, lights that just hung in the air, didn't move. They definitely were not airplanes. And it just baffled all of us. And they hung on there for several minutes. Like I said, these people saw them when I was in the house. They came and got me, and I still stared outside what I believe would be over 10 minutes.
How big were they?
Well, they were quite in the distance from where I was at, and they appeared pretty large. But it's really hard for me to give a measurement, whether it was the size of a football field or 2 football fields. Because they were so far off in the distance, but they were very large. I couldn't quite describe the shape because all you saw were the big bright lights in the sky.
What was going through your head at that time, seeing it?
Going through my mind, I'll be a son of a bitch. That's what was going through my mind, because before, if you told me you saw an UFO in the sky, I would have called you crazy, probably made fun of you. My mother claimed she saw one in Sedona, Arizona, and I made fun of her. And there I was looking at something myself. And I'm not here to tell you it was an alien life form, but it was absolutely an unidentified flying object that I had not seen before.
And do you believe that was possibly one of the United States test aircrafts, or could it have possibly been an enemy aircraft?
Well, I'm not an expert on aircraft, so it could have been a military experiment or enemy aircraft. I don't buy their explanation that that came out 2 weeks later, that they were doing drills and dropping fake bombs in the air and they were lit up in the sky, because those things were not falling from the sky, and then they just vanished. So I don't buy their story. It could be theirs, it could be military, but it was an unidentified flying object.
And in your experience since then, it's been over 20 years, you haven't seen another object like that or any other supposed military testing in the area?
I have not seen anything like that before nor after.
And of course the governor at the time came out either a day or 2 after, dressed up as an alien at a press conference to try and lighten the mood. Could you just describe what the feelings were of people in Phoenix at that time, because it was such a mass sighting?
Well, yeah, from what I recall, it was the largest sighting ever by over 100,000 people. I wouldn't say there was chaos. I just think people were concerned about what was really going on. And the governor tried to make light of the situation, but he did make light of it, and everybody kind of chuckled. However, nobody's questions were ever answered, and I have not met anybody that really bought the story from the military.
And where can people follow you if they want to search you up on social media?
They can find me Rich Bauer on Facebook, B-A-U-E-R, or Captain Super on Twitter.
And you're also good friends with Superstar
Billy Graham.
Good friend of the channel.
That's right.
To close this off, to appeal to the wrestling fans, as we bored them a little bit with the UFO stuff, any favorite Superstar Billy Graham story that you've experienced?
My favorite Superstar Billy Graham story is when he was making his return to the WWF, and he shot a promo either at Camelback Mountain or Squaw Peak, and he stood there with his shirt off with tarantulas all over his head, and I thought they were fake until they started walking around his shaved head, and that still sticks in my mind. I have it saved on my phone. It was my favorite promo ever.
I am with Maizie Bauer. This is Hannibal from thehannibaltv.com, and she believes she witnessed a UFO in 1991 here in Phoenix, Arizona. Could you describe to us that incident?
Well, I was out on my balcony at my apartment, and we looked up in the sky and saw what looked like 4 lights just hanging up in the air, sat there for several minutes, and then kind of disappeared off in the distance, and can't explain it. A lot of people saw it, and still to this day have no idea what that was.
What was your reaction to it?
We just surprise. It looked very abnormal. At first you thought it was an airplane, but the more you looked at it, there was no way it was an airplane.
I see. Didn't have time to run for a camera, I guess.
Well, it wasn't as accessible back then to go get your camera, and you didn't have your cell phone, so you just stood there and looked at it, and everybody else, there was several other people in the apartment complex that looked up and thought, we all talked about it for months. What the heck was that?
How big was it, did you guess?
It was large. It was like a football field.
Football field?
Yeah.
Circular or?
The lights were circular. So there were, I can't remember if it was 4 lights or 3 or 4 lights, but it was, and it had to have been bigger than that because it was not above us, but it was far enough that you could make it out. But it was probably like 3 or 4 circular lights.
And it still stands out to you to this day?
Oh yes, I remember it very well.